All right, thank you, everybody. So I write about the clean energy economy for Inside Climate News. And one of the things that surprised me early in covering my current beat is how anything about energy storage gets a lot of interest from readers. I'll get lots of feedback from just the general public, from people in the energy business, and it led to me to say that batteries are clickbait. Or batteries are our clickbait, I guess, maybe. And there's a really kind of interesting aspect of the battery economy that we get to talk about here today. So right now, we're in a market in which lithium-ion batteries pretty much dominate. But things are changing. And this is a market that's growing, and it's diversifying in all kinds of interesting ways. And Skeleton, the company that Arno works for, is in a really interesting place. So Arno, really great to be here with you.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you.
So if you're meeting someone who knows nothing about Skeleton Technologies, what do you tell them about the company?
So, hello everyone, first of all. So Skeleton Technologies is a company created in Estonia, so in northeastern Europe, and we are a high-power energy storage company. We develop and manufacture supercapacitors and high-power batteries to electrify and decarbonize hard-to-decarbonize sectors. And we do it by using our own proprietary material, meaning that we don't need any nickel or we don't need any cobalt in our product.
Mm-hmm. So that covers a whole bunch of stuff. So how does that translate into products? So like, what are the core products that Skeleton sells?
So historically, the core product has been supercapacitors. So basically, supercapacitors is a form of energy storage, like batteries. However, unlike batteries, they can unleash a massive amount of power for a more limited amount of time. It can unleash it within seconds or sometimes even milliseconds. So basically, comparing supercapacitors and batteries, it's like comparing Usain Bolt and Mo Farah, you know? So I'm not saying one is better than the other. It just depends what kind of race you're going to run, or it just depends what kind of application you have. And it's something that is often left out in the whole debate about energy storage and batteries. Yes, you need long duration energy storage. You need energy density, especially for the automotive sector. However, there's a large bunch of industries like mining, space, construction, port operation, etc., that need a huge burst of power in order to electrify and decarbonize. And this is precisely what Skeleton is doing. We're helping this kind of sectors to electrify.
Mm-hmm. And you're talking about a product. Now, what's the name of that, or what? If I'm in the energy business, what's the word that makes me think, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So supercapacitors is the keyword here, and actually supercapacitors was even raising the interest of Elon Musk. So when Elon Musk started his studies at Stanford, very short studies actually. Actually, his main area of studies was about supercapacitors. So supercapacitors has always been in the interest of a lot of people working in the energy industry, because everyone knew that if you don't only think about the automotive sector, if you want to electrify and decarbonize the entire economy, you will need different technologies for different applications. And some of these technologies are supercapacitors. Then we have also developed what we call a super battery, which is a high-power battery, which is basically a hybrid between supercapacitors and batteries. Again, the core point here for us being about focusing on the high-power segment of the battery industry. Not the usual automotive, but more industrial applications, heavy-duty vehicles, heavy equipment, and also boosting the capacity of the grid, because this is absolutely critical. You cannot integrate more electricity from renewables if you don't massively invest in strengthening the grid.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this touches on something that's really interesting about the energy storage space, which is right now we're mostly talking about massive quantities of lithium-ion batteries being used for light vehicles, you know, for light trucks and cars. But the spaces that Skeleton is in is, first of all, in a whole bunch of markets, but then also this kind of different aspect, to kind of batteries that work with other batteries. And how does this work? It's kind of like you have a super powerful energy burst that is teaming up with one of these other kinds of batteries that we're more used to, right?
So in some applications, supercapacitors or superbattery can work alone without any other form of energy storage, especially when you need a huge burst of power. However, indeed, in many other sectors, you can combine supercapacitors together with lithium-ion batteries or together with hydrogen fuel cells. There, the idea is to be very complementary because, again, since you have different applications, different needs, you need different kind of technologies. So. That's why the company is called Skeleton, because we aim to be the skeleton of the decarbonization worldwide. So we are helping and we're enabling a lot of sectors to actually decarbonize and electrify. And when you look into it, there are actually a lot of sectors that cannot electrify just by using the usual lithium-ion batteries. Lithium-ion batteries are great for the automotive industry, for passenger vehicles, but not for applications when you need a lot of power. And it's actually very problematic because the way the battery industry right now is being developed, either in Europe or also in the US, is really focused on the needs of the passenger vehicle sector. Right now in Europe, there are 50 gigafactory projects. All of them are for lithium-ion batteries, but all of them also are for lithium-ion batteries using nickel, manganese, and cobalt for their chemistry. And we know that by 2030, there won't be enough supply of nickel and cobalt. So this is going to become problematic. So that's why if you want also to reduce your dependencies, you need to be able to develop alternatives to these critical raw materials, which is precisely what we're doing.
So there's this risk in the battery storage space for companies that rely a lot on materials that are either really expensive or really difficult to obtain. And what you're saying is that Skeleton doesn't use any of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So what's kind of the practical effect of that? Like, is that just one of the first couple of things you hit on when you're talking to potential customers or trying to integrate what you guys do into what a customer's doing?
Yeah. Well, it's even more exciting for policymakers, let's say, because when you arrive and we say, oh, by the way, we don't depend on any other region of the world. We are in full control of our supply chain because we have developed this alternative, the synthetic version of graphene, which we call curved graphene, and we are processing on our own, and then we're using it for our high-power batteries, for our energy storage systems. So it makes it quite appealing to know that there's a company that doesn't depend on any other region of the world. So this is absolutely key because nowadays, whether North America or Europe, everyone is trying to focus on security of supply for these critical raw materials. However, I mean, we know that we're all fighting for the same critical materials. So we have to develop alternative versions of these critical materials. And Skeleton really started out of it. Skeleton is really a deep tech company because it started by research on this curved graphene, on this critical raw material. And then it developed into a battery company when we realized that actually the best use of this material is actually for energy storage because of its conductive properties. That's why it has much more, it can store much more power than any other of this metal.
So one of the questions that I often ask when I'm like looking at a company I'm not familiar with is kind of, okay, what's this company's like real product? Or what is this company's core innovation that makes it different from others in its space? And so much of the conversation around Skeleton is this curved graphene. Again, like I asked you earlier, how would you describe Skeleton to somebody who knows nothing about the company? How would you explain what curved graphene is and why it's important in a battery?
So curved graphene is basically a black powder. So it looks like a black powder. And it's made, the core product there, the core material is actually silicon carbide, which is basically sand. And then we process it on our own using nitrogen, hydrogen, etc. And then we obtain this black powder with these conductive properties. And then by combining it together with our product, then it just allows much more power density than any other product. So by using it, we've been developing supercaps, we've been developing high power batteries, and now we're working in a lot of different industries, from mining to grid to renewables to port infrastructure to maritime industry. All this industry that was struggling until now to fully decarbonize and electrify.
And it's not necessarily that the products that you guys make are the principal battery in this equipment. It is that this is providing a power burst or a power stability in a larger system, right?
So it depends on the sector. For instance, we have applications in the mining sector. So mining sector right now represent basically around 7% of the CO2 emissions in the world. And actually almost, let's say 45% of the CO2 emissions in the mining sector come from the fact they're using only diesel vehicles. Because they have this need for fast charging, high power, and really high power that lithium-ion batteries cannot deliver. So with our super battery, with our high power battery, we can actually help them to electrify, because our high power battery can be used for applications of up to 30 minutes. And you know, in a mining field, in a mining operation, you have some rotation. You rotate, and then you're never further away than 30 minutes from a point A. And then with this, you can fully electrify thanks to using our super battery. So these are the kind of applications where actually we can really enable the electrification of this industry.
There's some interesting grid applications, if I understand right. You know, the electricity grid it is at times resilient. It is at times incredibly delicate, and I find it interesting kind of how some of the stuff that you guys do helps to stabilize the grid.
Yeah.
And how does that work exactly?
Yeah. So grid is indeed the main challenge that for the entire energy storage industry, and actually is going to be a major challenge for all of the economies in the world and all of the countries, because we all know that we need to massively increase the amount of electricity produced from renewables. So this is well understood by everyone. We all know that this renewable energy is intermittent. We know that sometimes you have no wind, sometimes you have no sun. So you need the right solutions in order to integrate them within the grid. Here, very often, people know that then it means you need long duration energy storage, basically to store electricity from wind power for when there's no wind, and then you can use it again. However, very often you don't think about the fast reaction that is needed, and you don't think about the power dimension on it. That's why you also need to combine it together with energy storage technologies like supercapacitors that can react in milliseconds. That's why we often say we are in the megawatt milliseconds business, megawatt seconds business, because you need to be able to really react very fast with any kind of intermittency or any kind of fluctuation. And these fluctuations sometimes arise within the same minute or within the same second. So that's why technologies like supercapacitors are really key to stabilize the grid and make sure that the production of electricity from renewables can be fully integrated. Because, again, this is really the key for decarbonation and electrification. We need to be able to massively invest and to strengthening the grid. Otherwise, all of our goals of reduction of CO2 emissions are not going to be reached without energy storage systems. And in energy storage, you need long duration, but you need also high power and fast reaction.
So I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about what it's like being a company in this fascinating and fast-growing space, and you're based in Estonia.
Yes.
And I have no idea. When I think of Skeleton, it seems like that's one of the things. It's like, oh, that's cool. So you're based in Estonia. You have a factory in Germany.
Yeah.
But how is it that Estonia and the kind of entrepreneurial environment there contributed to this company?
Yeah. So it's a very good question. And we have also, even for Estonia, a bit of a different profile because we are the only, we are one of the industrial clean tech companies in Estonia, whereas the country is usually more focused on software, for instance. However, what is really important here is the Estonian mindset. People in Estonia are very entrepreneurial. They start from a problem and immediately try to reach the solution. They test technologies, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but but you never know this and you never improve if you don't fail. So that's why I believe a company like Skeleton had to be born in Estonia precisely because it was in an industry that was emerging with a lot of technologies rising, technologies failing, but you needed to have this mindset of never stopping your effort, always trying to improve your product and then develop it. Then eventually, and this is something we're seeing now, when you want to scale up, you have to also to build partnerships with more traditional industrial companies, industrial powerhouses, because it's not that hard to build one factory, and this is what we've been doing since 2017 already. But now that we're scaling up, building another factory, again in Germany, they're building more factories, whether in France or eventually in North America, etc. You need to be able to massively scale, build better, and build faster as well. So that's why it's important then to partner together with players who have this like more traditional industrial mindset, but with a lot of experience that can help you grow and massively scale. Because in the battery industry now, we need both to innovate and also massively scale and build fast and build right now.
Mm-hmm. And you feel like as a company that started in Estonia and that is now, that's a pretty kind of essential part of the identity of the company. That seems to be a real asset in conversations with people around the company, right?
Absolutely, Estonia, and if anyone hasn't noticed, I'm not Estonian myself. I'm not really the Nordic type. I'm French, but Estonia really has this image of being very innovative,
yep,
of being fast movers, and of being able to take risk, which is not always something we have in Europe in general. So the Estonians really combine this together with the strong interest in deep tech, in the fundamental research, and this is what was the best cocktail for Skeleton. It has been co-founded by Tavi Madiberg, who's still the CEO of the company now, but he had this entrepreneur mindset and he combined it together with the scientist who started developing this curved graphene material. So it's really a combination of different skills that can really help companies grow. And you can't only be focused on one thing. You need to build the right team in order to build the right product and then also scale it and put it globally. Because in the high-power battery sector, we don't only serve Europe, of course. Our main competitors are actually from Asia, because we don't do the passenger vehicle type of battery, which Europe is mostly focused on right now. European lithium-ion batteries can be really useful for the European market, for the European automotive market. However, for the kind of industries we have to think really globally. So that's why we need to have this mindset of reaching out to new heights and new challenges. And the Estonian mindset really fits perfectly into that.
Mm-hmm. So look ahead just a little bit. I find that when you look ahead more than like 5 years, at that point we're all kind of, I don't know, it's highly speculative. But what do you see in like just the near term for the company? I mean, this is such an interesting space,
yeah,
but I'm just like, if we're sitting here in, 2028, what do you see ahead for Skeleton?
So right now we have, it's actually a nice problem to have, but we have signed a very fair amount of a contract, but we really need to dramatically increase our manufacturing capacity. So in the coming 5 years, we're going to build more factories. We're going to build much more because right now the entire sector has seen that the demand is there, but we need more production capacity. So of course, as any battery company, we won't only focus on Europe. We're going to expand North America, perhaps Asia, perhaps in many other areas. But what is really sure is that right now the key challenge is really to massively increase our manufacturing capacity. It takes time to build factories, and it's not only for us, but the same in the hydrogen sector, for electrolyzers, for instance, or fuel cells. We need to build more factories, and it's something which our societies stopped doing for a while. I mean, whether in the US or in Europe, we've seen a massive disindustrialization for a long time, which had a lot of social impact, actually. So now we're facing a clean industrial revolution because we won't manage to reach net zero without a lot of new industries, without a lot of new manufacturing. So it's extremely exciting. However, it means in the coming years, we're all going to have to build much more manufacturing capacity. So that's why industrial jobs have never been as exciting and as hot as now. It's because we're really in the beginning of a clean industrial revolution.
And I guess the last thing would just be, lithium-ion batteries just are so dominant right now. If we're talking 5 years from now, are we going to be talking about a whole bunch of other competing versions of the batteries that we're so used to?
Yeah, so there's no one-size-fits-all solution in batteries and energy storage. So there'll be a lot of different technologies that are going to be in the market to serve different kind of applications. So lithium-ion batteries are going to stay. Maybe not the nickel, manganese, cobalt chemistry. Maybe more with lithium, iron phosphate, iron and phosphate chemistry, because these are more abundant, less scarce. But at the same time, you see also developments in solid-state batteries, which are going to also increase energy density. But again, this is really targeted at the automotive sector. So in a lot of different sectors, you will see much more supercapacitors and high-power batteries.
All right. Arnaud, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Yep.
Thank you.